We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Yes!
So fun. I can't even hold it. I can't even hold a sentence. Hello everybody, and welcome to another Q&A video.
I think before we get started, we both wanted to just say thank you to everyone who commented on last week's
This week's episode,
Monday just gone, regarding the winch repair.
Yeah.
So many people were either had the little widget that we needed and were prepared to send one out, or had a way to 3D print one, or sent us the email for a supplier who does them.
So many people had so much information and so much stuff, and everyone was so generous with offering how to help us, which was so lovely.
So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely follow up with one of you and get some spares for those, because I dare say the rest are going to go very shortly. And if you haven't seen that episode, we'll do the thing, one of those things up there. Check it out, and
on to questions.
That's enough of that.
So we had 10 awesome questions today. 10? 10. Yeah, we'll see how far we go.
Be a long one.
So I think we'll try
maybe make a coffee or a beer.
Yeah,
or
that's
a cocktail.
a good idea. Just pause for a sec. We've already had 3 coffees, so we're probably not going to go for the coffees today. But I can fake it, and I can just,
probably over caffeinated. Well,
yeah,
so what
probably.
happened? We usually have a coffee while we do this, because you stay hydrated or whatever. Keep your palate moist. But we got started, got everything set up, both cameras were dead flat.
Yeah.
So then it was like, so next minute it's 3 coffees and a 30-minute wait, and now we're very much over caffeinated and behind schedule. So
I'm bouncing off the walls.
let's get into it.
Okay, number 1, Cameron Fry says, how is your countertop holding up? It's actually holding up very well. Every time I clean it, because it's white, and obviously our last countertop used to be blue, I obviously need to clean that a little more than usual. Fair enough, that's just to do with cleanliness.
So
exactly. I will say, so it's holding up really well. I haven't had any chop marks, like knife marks or anything like that. I've purposely not been chopping or doing anything like that on it. If I put hot things on it, it doesn't mark, it's fine. There was an incident though where we were using a piece of wood and we left it on the countertop next to the sink, and the
just the tannins or the oils in the wood
seeped out into the countertop, and I can't get rid of them. So it's a little bit orangey, yellowy, browny in one section. So I'm struggling a little bit with maintaining the stain, or like trying to get rid of the stains on it. I don't often like to use bleach on this boat, but I have attempted to use it there and it didn't really work. So I'm kind of grappling with that a little bit at the moment, but I'm sure I'm going to find a solution somewhere.
But I think any new, I don't think that's a detriment to the concept of any new countertop that is gloss finish and a light colour is going to take a stain and look worse than the ratty old vinyl that's lifting up. And, I would 100%
prefer to still have this with the wooden tanniny stain thing than what we had before. So
no going back.
No, definitely not. Okay, next question.
Thank you for the question, mate. Next question.
That's a great question.
David Gallagher.
David Gallagher says, whenever I see your cockpit view, I wonder how many times you guys have hit your head on those bolts in the Bimini. This was actually the
6
second
thumbs up and a supporting comment saying that sounds like a good question for
And there was also another question, same question in this week's episode, asking exactly the same thing. So it's obviously a frequent thought that comes into people's mind.
Not, never once have we hit. So the bolts, as you know, it's the old fabric Bimini frame, and I've laid foam board over the top and glassed it up to reinforce it, and then bent it with a heat gun. And they're just sort of, the bolts are actually the bolts that hold the 2 panels on the roof in place. But the bolts only come down about that far, but also the bar for the Bimini frame kind of comes down that far too.
Oh yeah,
so when I did the height, I did it so that you're not going to constantly wipe your head out on the Bimini bars. And so that's sort of the level, and neither of us really ever catches our head on it. And the way that they're offset, you couldn't stand upright there anyway, because it's the nuts, or the bolts and the nuts sort of are over where the seat begins, so you would never stand upright where they are. Anyway, it's not going to be much of a problem, or it's not going to be a problem for much longer, rather, because as you'll see in coming episodes, we're overhauling that whole shebang. I won't give it away.
Oh, that was close. We're gonna
Well, now that's just mean.
Okay, so this was from How Much Does
Stupid
Boat Life Really
pirate.
Cost? Stupid Pirate asks, why not build a boat in, why not buy a boat in Australia or closer? Why do you have to fly halfway around the world?
Valid question.
I'm going to let you answer this one. I
Valid
think.
question. I'm sure there would have been a way to get a boat for a reasonable price, and I'm sure there are boats that are good boats that are for sale in Australia for a reasonable price that would have saved us having to fly halfway around the world. However, the time schedule that we were on and the kind of boats we were circling and the price that we had just in our search, it just tended to be more often than not that you could get more boat for your buck in the US, even including the cost of the flight over there. And I suspect the reason for that is that the import taxes for boats in Australia are kind of high. So that's one reason. Secondly, if you were to buy a boat in, say, Perth or Melbourne, where we met, or even further north, your cruising grounds as novices are somewhat limited. And if you want to get anywhere, you're pretty well straight into the jaws of the beast here. It's a long way to get anywhere. And I won't say it's the way we did it is better. I think that would be a mistake to say that.
We don't know the other options,
exactly.
so that we
would
can't
never
say
know.
what was better.
But I'm happy with the choice we made. I don't feel that we paid through the nose.
You also mentioned that there's a more selection of boats in America. Than there was in Australia. I don't know if you mentioned that.
That's my belief.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that as matter of fact, but it's my belief that there are a broader selection of boats in the States and in the Med than there are in Australia, particularly for cruising. There's a lot of good racing boats in Australia, I reckon. The cruising boats, just the cruising culture, the cruising culture, the chartering culture and business is just bigger in the Caribbean, the States and the Mediterranean than it would be in Australia.
Cool.
Thank you for the question, mate.
Do you want to go next?
I hope that answered.
Thanks, Stupid Pirate.
Thank you, Stupid Pirate. Have a lovely day. Friar Fox. I have a couple of questions. Do you find items such as fishing cages or floating debris from buoys or buoys to shipping containers to be a real hazard, especially on night watch?
Should we answer them one by one?
Yes, let's do that one first.
Okay.
So
we've never come across a shipping container.
No.
However, in saying that, we've also not really had a
came across
working
a
radar.
whale, though.
Oh yeah, we did it actually. A whale. That's
Shipping
pretty cool.
containers and things like that are much less likely, I think. We've never come across one. We've had
Although
a close call with a whale.
Yep, we have heard of people coming across shipping containers
Yes, it's
though.
not unheard of.
Only 2 stories maybe out of all the time we've been cruising. Granted, it might not come up very often in conversation. But
Fishing
buoys,
pots and buoys are everywhere.
Nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Obviously, coming in and leaving a port or an anchorage is where you're really going to come unstuck.
Yeah.
And we try to avoid doing that at night if we don't know the way in and we've not been there before. If it's an island hop or we just, let's say Grenada to Carriacou, and you leave late and you're getting in after dark, if you know where you're going, fine, not a big deal. But I would not drive into a new anchorage or like a fishing village or something without someone on the bow with a torch, a
Do you
big
remember
spotlight.
Nevis? We left like really early in the morning.
Exactly.
And one of us was on the front.
Stood up there for hours with a big spotlight. I mean, even a radar's not going to pick up a fish pot or anything like that. So the only way to pick them up is just to look.
Okay, next question.
Next part of question.
Yes.
Do you find the fish population and the general reef ecosystem to be degrading and depopulating?
I feel like that's a massive question and one that we're probably not qualified to answer.
Probably not. I couldn't say that there's been a notable decline. However, if I think back home in Australia, like what I remember of snorkeling and diving back home.
Yeah. So Adam's on the west coast of Australia.
Yeah. Well, we've done it on the east coast too. But over the course of my life, I would say yes. However, I caveat that by saying there's very diverse locations, and so, if maybe we're just really lucky at home and out here is not declining. I should also add to that by saying that we've...
How many caveats and caveats are you going to do?
We have discussed this at length with lots of people who probably would know better in the diving industry. They have dive shops and they are avid divers, and they adamantly say that there is a decline. And I will say that the thing I do notice that there isn't much life out here. Like it's surprising to me. I had higher hopes.
Well, let's compare maybe. On our first year when we were sailing, our fishing record, we caught some fish. Nowadays, we catch no fish. Ever.
You reckon? Or maybe we're just
that's
suck at
indicative.
fishing.
Well, okay, yeah, there's that factor too.
The coral reef seems to be really suffering, like
Yeah.
really bleaching and really suffering. And there's no rehabilitation really going on. They're trying, but they've got one hand
They're
tied behind
such
their back.
small nations, and I
Yeah.
just don't think they have the funding. It's really sad. I don't think they know
Well, there's
how to
no
deal with
enforcement. There's no funding.
Yeah.
There's no fisheries, so to speak. Like there might be
Yeah.
a website with some rules on it, but there's no enforcement. Like 9 times out of 10, we'll come into a marine park area, pick up a mooring ball or put a hook in, and there's people fishing. There's locals
There's like
fishing
a local
there.
fishing
it's
from
not
shore.
an issue. And we couldn't go up and be like, you're not allowed to do that. Like that'd be a bit
Yeah.
rich. But there's no authority. There's no fisheries. There's none of that. So
Do you remember that time an actual marine park officer sold us fish?
yes,
Or like
exactly.
tried to sell us fish.
that
We're
he
like,
had caught
"Really?"
behind the island in a
Yeah.
marine fisheries zone. So that's kind of what we're dealing with out here, or they are dealing with rather.
Yes.
Hans really hit the nail on the head for me about that.
Yeah.
The guy who dragged me around behind his power cat, he's quite an avid diver, and he very matter-of-factly said, he's like, you guys are probably the last generation that's ever going to get to see a vibrant coral reef if you have already seen one in your life. And
Yeah.
that really
That's so
really
sad.
floored me, and I have been chewing on that ever since. I'm like, it's really
Yeah.
sad that our kids might not get to see
What a coral
what we
reef looks
saw
like.
as children, unless you go, you'd have to
So
take
off
them
grid.
really off the grid. It's really sad. Anyway,
Okay, next
on that
one.
note,
Mostly and most importantly, what do you do for fresh bred panic attacks at sea?
straight up in my
Man,
head,
those
what's that
fresh
all
bred
about?
panic attacks. If I don't have my fresh bread, I really don't know whether
don't know
this
how to
feels.
make
I don't know
one.
whether this is a typo.
Is that an absence of fresh bread
I'm not
inducing
sure.
a panic attack?
Well, do you
Or
think
is-
maybe he ran out of fresh bread or something? Or maybe it's actually just what about if you have a panic attack at sea and it's actually more serious and he just typoed it? Like,
I think it's a fresh bread absence-induced panic attack.
well, I would probably strongly encourage
You've
you
made bread
to
underway.
make some more bread then. Yeah, for sure. You can
So
make bread
Khiara-
underway.
Khiara
You can
makes
cook. You can do
all of our
everything
bread.
underway.
That's how
So
we deal
thankfully,
with
I've never
that.
had a panic attack. You just make the bread underway.
I've had pizza-induced panic attacks more than bread. An absence of pizza. Thank you for the question. GVN Jewel 84.
Hey.
Governor Jewel? Govern Jewel.
Governor
84.
Jewel 84. I have to ask, do you ever get blasé about finding these new amazing gorgeous beaches and reefs?
I don't think so.
Oh, I think maybe...
You definitely have varying degrees of excitement, but I enjoy pulling into a new place.
Yeah, that's true.
Like once the hook is in and you're like, right, the baby's put to bed, everything, we made it, it's all good. Then you look around and you're like, oh, so much to do.
Yeah,
So
that's
much
true.
to see. Yeah, there's like some of them really still blow your socks off, and some of them are just wow.
Yeah.
But there is always a wow.
Yeah.
And you don't. It's just an excitement of possibilities, really, because you don't know what's like.
Yeah.
What might appear to be a mediocre bay might have just the best rock wall with a little,
That's true,
or like
yeah.
lobster hiding somewhere, just a plethora of life. And then what might be a really beautiful bay might just be like turtle grass and sand as far as the eye can see, and there's nothing there. So you just never know, and that's part of the joy of pulling into a new bay, is that you need to go and find what it has to offer you.
But I do think though, when my mum and my sister came over just before Christmas time, they came into the water, they came onto the boat, and they were like astounded at how beautiful everything was. And I think it did make us think a little bit that, oh, maybe we've been taking it for granted a little bit too much. And it was kind of nice to actually reset that mentality when they were there and kind of start looking at it through their eyes and being like, oh yeah, actually, you're right. I mean, we can just jump off the boat and have like beautiful swimming, and there's beautiful water underneath us, and the like snorkeling has been the best that we've ever seen. And it was actually really nice to have someone on board to remind us of those things. So I do sometimes, it's not as if we get blasé, I think that we just sometimes forget how awesome it is and maybe just take it for granted a little
We
bit.
take the turtles for granted now.
Yeah, we do.
We used to just anytime someone saw a turtle, we'd just turtle. Just
Oh, we still do
everyone
that.
We still do that, but now it's sort of a
Oh,
just
turtle. Oh, cool.
I still get really excited for dolphins. I still
Oh yeah, same.
instinctively abandon the
Yeah.
helm and run to the front and yell, dolphins!
And start singing.
and start singing to them and be like, hey buddy, and you can hear them squeaking at
Yeah.
you, and yeah, dolphins still make me giddy.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, mate.
Thank you.
Willing to go one. Where does a man find a woman who will work on an engine? Are there any more? Is this perhaps a common trait of the antipodes? And I've just been in the wrong hemisphere all this time. Yeah, well, I'm sure
I'm
there's
just one
many.
of a kind.
You didn't
There is no
always
one else
like
like
to
me.
work on engines, though. I think
No.
you.
But I am a bit of a tomboy.
Yeah, you are. You're a tomboy for sure, and you're a hands-on person, I think, which helps.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, and I just had to
Yep.
slowly manipulate that into the tools and the engine belt. But how, with regards to where do you find someone like that? I don't know. I guess Khiara and I met in a share house. So I
Yeah.
actually moved in to the house that Khiara had already been living at with
Yeah, so
three
there were
other
5
people.
bedrooms in total
Yeah.
in this townhouse in Melbourne. And I'd been living there for 6 months, and somebody was leaving. So we all had an interview, all the people who are currently living there sat around the table, and Adam walks in. And I was like, oh hello. And he was like, oh hello.
Oh, hello. And then over the course
So
of
that's,
the following weeks and months and things, I was like, no, because you're going to have to find somewhere new to live if you screw this up. So you need to play it like, get yourself together, Adam. But what I did start to do is, Khiara being British, and it was quite cold in Melbourne, or was at times, Khiara drinks a lot of tea. And I was upstairs and she was downstairs, and so every time I heard the kettle come on, I would run downstairs and be like, oh, go and pop a cuppa on for me, will you? And then while we're waiting for the kettle to boil, we start chatting, and then, oh, you have one sip
Then
and
you have
another,
the
and
cup of
before you know
tea.
it, you're through your first cup and you'll make one for the road. Then it's another cup. And the rest is history.
yes.
So,
And he doesn't drink tea anymore.
and I don't drink tea. I can't stand tea anymore, yeah. So yes, with
So-
regards to where do you find a woman who will do that,
You need to move in with them first.
you have to move in with them, yeah. Just, thank you for the question.
Nigel Appington says, having watched your videos on the cost of cruising, I would be interested to know what are your funding streams? Savings, bank of mum and dad, secret jobs, patron YouTube, smuggling, piracy, all of the above.
All of the above.
No. I always find it strange when it's like bank of mum and dad.
No secret jobs.
Well,
for
I think
sure.
that like my mum, personally, would prefer to travel than send her kid off travelling.
Yeah.
She would much prefer to go travelling herself.
To be honest, the bank of mum and dad for Khiara, like my folks are patrons, and I'm very grateful for them for that. Khiara's mum, she says, I'm coming, and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm meeting you here, and the flights are booked, it's all done.
Within a
like,
week, we're like,
So
okay.
and she's on her
all right.
way, and then she comes and she's, beautifies or nonifies the
Yes.
boat, makes it really lovely, and like just adds to things, makes it homely, much like you would for your child's first home. And so we end up, when she leaves, you end up with like nice new chairs or kitchen stuff, and,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
they've been incredibly generous. But I think that's in a way a bribe for just having us on retainer, I suppose. And we love
Just having constant holidays.
we love having them.
But in
with
order to go back
regards
to the question-
funding streams, there's no secret jobs.
No.
You may. Sorry, I gotta stop banging the table. Apologies for that.
So Adam and I we had like average jobs. I was a team assistant and Adam was an aerospace engineer prior to coming out. We were definitely not on like top dollar salaries, but we did save for a long time.
Years, 2 years at least.
In order to buy our boat, we had to put in pretty much our lifetime savings, and I've been working since I was 16 years old. So that was about at least 10 to 15 years worth of all of my savings had gone into this adventure. Same as Adam, he's been working since 18 years old. This was not just a...
My savings did not get quite so well managed as yours.
But like, this was
Pilot
not
training is
something that we thought... Yeah. We didn't just plan this in like 2 years and just kind of wrap it up and was like, oh yeah, okay, that'll be fine.
Yeah, we certainly didn't
saved
start
for
from zero.
over a decade. Not necessarily for this, because we didn't realise
Yeah.
that this was going to be our plan at the time, but we had a decade worth of savings. So when we came out here, we had enough for the boat, we had enough to redo it and refit it. We also had enough for what I budgeted to be 2 years worth of our savings in order to live off. And after that, we were going to go back home and work and build up the kitty, and that was just going to be our plan. We never ever thought that YouTube was going to fund our living or anything like that.
You'd be mad to leave with savings and YouTube to get by as a YouTuber is your plan A. Like you'd have to be mad to do that and expect that that's going to take off and that's going to support you. Like it was always a pipe dream, you know, in many ways. But through, I guess, happenstance and unfortunate events and I'm not going to lie, a lot of hard work and a lot of like heartache and a lot of
and luck as
steep learning curve and a little bit of luck. Like we managed to bridge the gap. Like so you've got like money and time. And like we started sort of there with our savings and you draw down on your savings over time. And then YouTube kind of started somewhere, I don't know, along the, like in our first year, 6 months, 8 months, we started filming from day dot, but we never really thought to do anything with it.
Nah.
For at least 8 months after we had departed. And then nothing happened for a long time. And it sort of went like that. And over the course, you took my pen. Over the course of the last 3 years, we've endeavoured very hard to get our cost of living down to here.
Well, that's a declining
line.
It is.
Well, we're trying to get the cost of living down. We're trying to be as frugal as we can.
That was intentional.
And so we've sort of ended up about here, which is where like our savings are no longer drawing down, and through the generous, incredibly generous patrons and all the people who watch at home, we've managed to turn this ridiculous misadventure into a business, and we both love what we do and we're very grateful that it is what we are able to do. That's where we're at. We've just got like we have a little bit of a get out of jail, not free, a very expensive get out of jail. We have savings. We have a do not touch the oh shit money.
Stop tapping your table.
Sorry, boss. And you know, for the last year now, we've been entirely living off this production, and that is entirely because of you guys. So thank you for that. We're very grateful and we're very blessed to be able to do it, and we hope to be able to continue to do it and continue to improve.
Indeed.
And really turn it into something great.
Okay, now our last question is from Marshall Law. We love watching you guys live the dream. My question is this.
I like that he put quotations on dream.
Yeah, same.
Because it's like
the grass always seems to be greener on the other side. And
a lot of selling the sizzle, not the sausage. And sorry, she's bringing me back on track.
My question is this. Do you love the Millennial Falcon? Do you like it? Or do you just merely tolerate it?
I love it. I do. I mean, it's a love-hate relationship without a doubt, but there's definitely love. Yeah, like you drive away from the boat, and I know everyone probably says this, but like I can't take my eyes off it.
Yeah.
If we're sitting in a neighbour's boat, like I keep looking back, I can't stop looking
I don't think that we've met many other people who are as affectionate with their boats as we are. We give it a nickname. She has a personality. She likes opera music.
We talk to her. She does. She has favourite music.
We have like a naughty nickname for her, like when she's like being naughty and bad.
Often.
But like a lot of other people we speak to, let's say they just have a boat called Serendipity. They're like, yes, I'm going back to Serendipity. And for us, we're like, oh, we're gonna go and see Millie Moo. I wonder how she's been all day. Like, she's a personality to us. And
she behaves and misbehaves depending on how we treat her and talk to her. And I know that sounds weird, but it's
and
true.
As much as trouble as she's given us, we've fallen in love with her because she's a little character in our life.
And she's gotten us through a lot of
a lot of
pinches.
She looks after us if we look after her.
Yeah, it is. It's a symbiotic kind of thing we have going on, and the more love we put into her, the more confident I am that she's going to look after us.
Yeah.
And it's not been often, but there's been a few times when we're like, we've made a mistake or we've been caught out, and I've just had complete faith that the boat's got us covered. And and I know that's just a testament to the boat. It's not actually a person looking after us, but I choose to see it as such. Like, she's gotten us through, and she's going to keep getting us through as long as we look after her.
At some stage, we also have got to think that she is just a boat, and she will go into our home eventually.
Custodians of her.
Yeah.
You're only ever a custodian of your boat, and you have a relationship. Nothing's forever, and you just build a great relationship with the boat, and you build trust. Trust is a huge thing about the boat for me.
Yeah.
Like, and I had my trust really shaken a few times with all the propeller falling off malarkey. And because it was so asymptomatic.
That was when her naughty nickname came out.
Yeah, because it was so asymptomatic that like it was really, it haunts me. And it's only recently that we've put all this love and effort into her, and I think it's behind us. But I'll never know if it is until the day it happens again, and I hope that day never comes. But trust is a huge thing, and if you get something that shakes your trust, it's hard to build it up again. And when you do build it up again, it's you really do fall in love with it again. Like when you get that joy and you have some nice days and some tight squeezes, or she'll take some damage and keep on trucking to get you through.
Yeah.
Little things like that, they add up to tell a story over time and develop a character. And you do fall in love with the character.
So that is, I believe, all
That's
the
a wrap.
questions that we have, indeed.
For now.
Everything is pretty much dying on us. GoPro's almost died. We've 4% left on the laptop. That's actually not looking too bad.
It's fine.
That's not too bad. Anyway, so we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for your questions.
I'm actually starting to sweat through my t-shirt. So.
And if you have any more, keep them coming in. We love answering them. And we're hoping that this is also bringing some value to anyone who's watching as well. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd like to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Probably see you Monday.
Before we go, I'm going to give an honourable mention to this comment because both Adam and I laughed our asses off. And the reason why I had to stop and hold Adam's hands during this whole thing was because of this. Great episode. However, I would gladly contribute towards the cost of covering Adam's hands with 6 pairs of socks and securing them with duct tape in an effort to mitigate the percussive pounding on the table. I love it. It's hilarious. This is great. And we indeed shall go and pick up some socks today, and anybody who wants to contribute can.